What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be moving forward with getting the engine bay prepped for paint. And this is very important because I took some time to think about this and I finally made a decision to move forward with it. I'm just going to buy a new, which I've already done, front core support. I started to drill out the spot welds over here just to give it a go, and they're coming out simple. So this is going to be the focus of today's video. I finally made the decision to replace this because this was holding me back from moving forward with the engine bay. If you notice here, it's got some damage. This is supposed to continue straight as a square to right here about. This is all bent out of whack. And as you can see up here, it's got some heavy damage. And basically what's happening is when I put everything back together, this front filler piece that goes in between the hood and the bumper is very misaligned. It's pushed up a little bit. You don't really notice this because the hood covers this, but it does kind of like run into the headlight. And I originally was going to try to bang all this out and try to get it as straight as possible, which I'm sure someone could if they took the time. Didn't know exactly how I was going to go about it. I didn't like the idea of banging it out and just trying to straighten it, even though that's probably what most people would have done. And there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like the right way is just to get a whole new piece and spot weld it on and be done with it. I've been practicing with my titanium flux core welder, which is what I'm going to be using. And like I said before, I gave it a go over here drilling them out, and they're coming out pretty easy. I'm using a 7/32 drill bit, using some WD. I'm obviously using a punch to start, a center punch, so I could start drilling right in the center. And they're just popping out really simple, and I'm just slowly moving along. I wanted to do a few just to make sure I got the process down because this is my first time doing this. I had a piece shipped up from South Carolina from a nice gentleman named Matt Duba, who is a good parts resource person if you want to get parts for these cars, because it's kind of hard to find at this point, and OEM parts especially are becoming very rare. So I was able to pick up a front end for this. I think this is off a CRX if I'm not mistaken, but luckily they are the same, the CRX and the hatch. They are interchangeable. Another quick issue I wanted to point out is that this tow hook, one of the bolts just spins. So I'm not able to remove this tow hook properly, and I have to get to the welded nut inside. I was originally going to cut something possibly over here just so I could get the welder in, just so I could tack that nut back down. But now that I'm actually changing out this whole front end, I'll be able to access that properly, tack the welded nut back down, remove that, and just go about it the right way. Because that was honestly killing me besides this misalignment and all that. So definitely a huge plus in the project. All right, guys, just wanted to give a little progress update. I got all the spot welds drilled out on this side, as you can see. And you are able to pull this frame completely from the car. There are a few on the bottom. There's one in here. And then you're basically just following the outline of this square. You're not taking out any of these other spot welds up here because this will all come out in one piece. And as you can see, with a little bit of prying, she popped right out. I had to use a screwdriver. You got to be a little careful with this because it's very thin metal and you don't want to just pry too hard or just pry anywhere because you could bend stuff. I'm not worried about bending this frame because it's already destroyed, but you want to be careful about where you pry because this is very thin gauge metal. You might have to pop it out in some places with a flathead and a hammer, but you don't want to go crazy. If you have to work too hard, that means you're not drilling enough. I got the other spot welds drilled out. You do not need to drill these out. There's a few on the bottom. You got to drill out the ones on the side. Obviously the ones here near the bumper support brackets. So this thing is pretty much off. I'm gonna just wiggle it and break the last little spot weld that's holding it on this side free. And this whole core support should come right off. I took some time over the last few days and built this kind of like a car dolly based off of two smaller dollies and some planks. I can really move the car around really nicely now. So recently, a few days ago, we just took the front end off and I haven't had some time to work on it, but today's a good day. And I got the car almost outside. And what we're gonna do is, now that we got the front end off, I'm gonna grind down some of the sharp edges, some of the leftover rust that I couldn't get to. So that way, when I do fit the new frame piece on, it's flush. So look at the other side. Not in bad shape. I straightened it out as best I could. And it's pretty much ready to go. I did, however, put some tack welds on that loose nut that was holding onto the toe bracket. So now that's taken care of. And I did put some tack welds on the other ones just to prevent further issues in the future where I can't access this anymore. Threw some primer on there and that should be good to go. I did actually wash down the bay previously with just a green Scotch-Brite pad and some soapy water. Did manage to clean up very nicely. We're gonna throw some of that Bondo on here just to get rid of that graininess that's, I guess, leaking battery acid over the last few years. And pretty much just get this bay ready so that way I can attach this and weld this new frame on. Here's the back of the frame that I got, so I got some work to do over here. I'm gonna grind a lot of this rust down and then throw some, got some Eastwood self-etch weld through gray primer. I'm just gonna throw some on the back, make sure that it's all sealed up so that way it prevents further rusting. And then I'm just gonna kind of just clean this thing up, sand it down, get this ready. I'm not a body guy. I don't think it's wise to spray a light color over a darker color, so I think I'm going to try to prime this before I spray the actual cream color. Just in the areas you'd probably see it, because obviously you're not going to see this whole thing, so I really don't care that much. It's not that much of a big deal, you know. I'm not going to be that crazy about it, but I just don't want it to be such a different color that you notice it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going to grind it down, clean it up, get this all ready to be lined up. But this is where we're at. Frame is off. You saw how I did it with the process, just drilling and working your way with the metal slowly. Make sure the bit is saturated with some oil. It is a pain in the butt, I'm not gonna lie. I did this off camera because it was, let me tell you, it's easier to do this one because it's attached to the frame of the car so you can work with it because it's not going anywhere. But when you're trying to drill it off one that's cut, good luck. You gotta pretty much be very gentle because you could bend this metal out of place and then you don't want to do that. So stay tuned. right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I threw down some spot welds on both sides just to keep it in place, so I took the clamps off, but I'm definitely not done. I'm gonna finish the welding process off camera just because I wanna devote my 100% attention to it, since it's a bit of a tedious process. But this will conclude getting the new front bulkhead on. The next video will definitely be prepping and painting the bay. I did not end up putting some Bondo over here because I just didn't think it was worth it. I did grind out some more rust, and I'm just gonna throw some primer and paint over it. And since it's gonna be covered by the tray, I'm not gonna go completely crazy with this car and try to get every little spot, but I do want bigger areas to be prevented like that from rusting out. But I'm not gonna deck out this bay to make it 100% clean, because this is gonna be, you know, kind of a race car, so I don't want it to be super clean and then get upset every time something happens to it, because it's bound to happen. But this will conclude today's video. Thank you guys for joining in. I hope you're excited for the next video for the engine bay getting painted. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care and be safe.